Former President Theodore Roosevelt wrote in his story Winter Weather, "When the days have dwindled to their shortest and the nights seem never-ending, then all the great northern plains are changed into an abode of iron desolation. Sometimes furious gales blow out of the north, driving before them clouds of blinding snow dust, wrapping the mantle of death around every unsheltered being that faces their unshackled anger. They roar in the thunderous bass as they sweep across the prairie or whirl through the naked canyons. They shiver the great brittle cottonwoods, and beneath their rough touch, the icy limbs of the pines that cluster in gorges sing like the chords of an Aeolian harp. Then again, in the coldest midwinter weather, not a breath of wind may stir, and then still merciless, terrible cold that broods over the earth like a shadow of silent death seems even more dreadful in its gloomy rigor than is the lawless madness of the storms. All the land is like granite. The great rivers stand still in their beds as if turned to frosted steel. In the long nights there is no sound to break the lifeless silence under the ceaseless shifting play of the northern lights, or lighted only by the wintry brilliance of the stars. The snow-clad plains stretch out into dead and endless wastes of glimmering white. It's horses in the snow. I mean, horses on film.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to episode 10 of Horses on Film. This is the podcast dedicated to determining the top 100 Westerns of all time. We're using as our guide, of course, Indiewire's list from 2024, where they set out their top 100 episodes. And from that, we're adding, subtracting, we're breaking it down, we're reorganizing till we get a list that we like and are proud of. And I hope you guys will enjoy this little journey through our West, the American West. So thank you for joining us. With me, as always, is my co-hosts, Dave and Scott. There's Dave. There's Scott. Hello. Welcome.
Hello. Aloha. Howdy, folks.
We are...
Howdy.
This is 10%. We're 10% of the way through this list.
Doesn't feel like it.
It feels like we're just getting started. I guess that's 10%. But
imagine when you go, hey, this is the last one.
Oh, that'll be 6 years from now.
Yeah, but like it's just weird because we've been doing the percentages lately, and just like it's weird because we're doing this and it's like 1% at a time. It feels like 2 hours plus the films, and I'm enjoying this.
All right.
When we get done, we'll just have to do all the stuff that's off the list. The list can continue to evolve,
or we do the list again.
I think we'll probably do a couple special episodes where we present our list, like, Scott, Dave will have a list, I'll have a list, and then we'll combine them and talk, and maybe we'll go like 50 at a time or 100 at a time or something. We'll figure it out.
Stay tuned to see if Unforgiven's on Dave's list.
Might not even make it. Might not even be.
I got a feeling it's not going to be there. So
it might be. Well, last episode, we covered Dances with Wolves, and it actually dethroned Unforgiven for our number one spot. So well done, Kevin Costner. You're now in spot 1 of 9. It had a rating of 18 out of 20 and an average rating of 4.5. So it's it's going to be up there. That's going to hang in there. I wanted to clarify, in the errors made. I said I'd never worked with Graham Greene, and I looked at it. He was in season 1 of The Last of Us, which I worked on, but he was in an episode that wrapped before I started. So not there. He was in Into the West, which I worked on, but he was in an episode after I left to do another show. So though we've been credited together twice, we've never crossed paths.
Graham Greene is in a different castle.
I guess so. It's too bad. I wish I would have shifted my work time a little bit so I could have
Oh
crossed
man,
paths.
imagine the stories you could have. Like I bet you Graham Greene had some amazing stories to share. I bet
Yeah.
you. There's no doubt in my mind.
I guarantee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, too bad. So this one today is a winter western. Can you, off the top of your head, imagine any winter westerns you may have seen?
The closest I've got would be the Unforgiven Japanese remake.
That's true, and I feel like there's a shot in Unforgiven where they're in the snow.
There might be
when he's nursing his wounds after being beat up.
Yeah,
and he's talking to the young prostitute. It's a little bit snowy in that moment. One that shot here, The Thicket, which I've talked about, is a snowy western. The Hateful Eight, obviously, we've mentioned a few times.
that's what Hateful Eight was the one I had, and Revenant was the other one I was going to mention.
Yeah, the Revenant. Although I did work on The Revenant. Full disclosure, I don't know if it qualifies as a western, just because all that kind of French trapper stuff is sort of pre-western. But
it's funny you're saying that, and I was thinking, like, because we debated on There Will Be Blood, and that would be post-western. I think
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah. Although I think the Revenant is a western, I don't know if it's western enough to be considered this. I don't know, but maybe we'll do a off the list episode on the Revenant. I watched a very unhinged one called Track of the Cat with Robert Mitchum. This is about a family out in the mountains, and they have cattle, and there's a loose cougar that's been killing the cattle. So they head out into the mountains to track this cougar. I don't know if it was a budget reason or an artistic reason, but you never see the cougar in shots where it feels like you should see the cougar. Like people reacting to being bit. So it isn't too far away.
It isn't a Jaws thing where they're just like less is more.
It feels like they ran out of money.
Oh, it's like we'll fix it in post, and then that never happened.
That's the main storyline of that movie, but 90% of the movie is set at the farmhouse with the crazy family and all the family drama. So again, I think they were just like, this cat budget didn't work out. Throw in more footage with the family. Anyway, it was wild. It was a strange one. McCabe and Mrs. Miller is on this list. It's a winter western. The Great Silence is a very violent and I'll just say horrible spaghetti western. It's also on this list. Some that aren't. Ravenous, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. One I think we should maybe devote an episode to. It was also shot here in Calgary.
I'd love to talk about both of those, to be honest.
Ravenous is very cool. Very cool.
Good. It's a weird watch, I'll give you that much, but I loved it. So
yeah, it would be a good Halloween episode maybe, because it is kind of freaky, very scary. Seraphim Falls with Liam Neeson, I believe.
Yep.
That was directed by David Von Anken, who directed the pilot and the bulk of the seasons of Hell on Wheels. He was he was a co-producer and one of our main directors. He's unfortunately passed away now, but very good Western and certainly starts in the winter, goes
if all the times we brought it up, if the audience hasn't watched it, go watch Hell on Wheels. It's fantastic. It is really good.
It's a great show. It's a great show. And we had snowy episodes of that too, especially building the railroad. We went out to Fortress Mountain. Season 3, we had an amazing flood. We had a tornado. We got accused online of having a CG tornado. It was a real tornado in the back of the shop.
Whoa.
Yeah, okay. It was. I have footage from set of this tornado. Anyway, it's crazy.
Watch the set deck for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the production value of shooting films in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. But anyway, let's get into this one. This is Day of the Outlaw. Are you guys ready to jump into our feature presentation?
Let's do it.
We can do that. Let's do that. So
all right.
I put that up. and set some mood music.
Little music.
Watch what happens to the women. Watch the West explode. Blaise Starrett is a rancher at odds with homesteaders when outlaws hold up the small town. The outlaws are held in check only by their notorious leader, but he is diagnosed with a fatal wound, and the town is a powder keg waiting to blow.
This is great. I'm so excited for this episode because literally it's one of my favorite
Best poster ever.
And the best thing about that poster is that none of that happens in the movie.
No,
I was just thinking
absolutely
that. I was
none of
like,
it.
I think I watched a different version than you guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great poster. It kind of harkens to like a Saul Bass kind of a look to it, and Tina Louise looks amazing in it, but none of that. It's clearly a scene that either didn't make it or the publicity department went hard for no reason.
Yeah.
The movie today is Day of the Outlaw, 1959, directed by Andre de Toth, screenplay by Philip Jordan. Now, Philip Jordan was also a front for a lot of blacklisted writers, but this is one that not only did he really write, he considers it one of his best. It's based on the 1955 novel of the same name by Lee Edwin Wells. I read the novel. It's pretty boring. They made a lot of very good choices in the adaptation, which is probably why he's so proud of the script. It stars Robert Ryan, Burl Ives, Tina Louise, and David Nelson too as well.
Which is interesting because we
Yeah.
had his brother in the same year in Rio Bravo.
Right. And I think he was cast to try to capture that same audience that Ricky was in.
Almost
Tina Louise, you may know as Ginger from Gilligan's Island too. So she was a big star.
Yeah, I put that together. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, now we're stuck in the snow. We got off the island. Okay.
It was filmed near the town of Bend, Oregon, in the mountains, which is the home of the last Blockbuster Video. If you ever want to get to Bend and go rent a movie, it was called Dutchman's Flats, and they shot a little at Todd Lake Meadows, late November, early December 1958. So this is winter for winter. Roger Horrocks wrote in his book, Male Myths and Icons, this film is a gold nugget on par with the Westerns of Bud Bedecker. So maybe that's why it kind of comes up in my world, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, Jordan said it was one of the best scripts he ever wrote. But of the final product, he said they ran out of money in Oregon, came back without a picture, and it could have been a real winner. Everyone worked for nothing. That was his opinion of the actual final product, which is kind of hard to believe. Let's bring in our guest. Our guest today, filmmaker, set dresser, one of my favorite people, and the nicest boy on the planet, Voytek Jarmula. Hello, Voytek.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I feel like I forced you to watch this movie on several occasions, or at least on several occasions I've been like, Voytek, you've got to see this movie. And you saw it, and then you texted me. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. You had told me about it a while back, and then you said it was available online, and so I found it on Tubi, and then watched it, and then it was a while back later that I remembered, and I wanted to text you that I found it kind of amazing, and what stood out to me for sure were like the villains in the film. Like I was just kind of in awe of that intensity. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know about it, and then you invited me on the podcast, and then I revisited it a few more times just to become reacquainted with it. So yeah, no, it's been great thinking about it and looking at it more closely.
It's a good lesson for all my friends and coworkers and acquaintances. Don't text me about a Western. Don't say, hey, I watched that Western, unless you want to show up on here.
I made the mistake once, and then Cameron sent me I think it was 1,000 words, and it started with part 1, and then like it was great read.
It happens. Absolutely. But anyway, Dave, have you seen this one before? Is this
No, not at all. It was interesting, and I didn't connect the dots until I looked up David Nelson. that I listen to a lot of audio dramas and old radio shows, and Ozzy and Harriet were their parents, and I knew they were a real life couple, but I didn't realize that Dave and Ricky were their kids. They're legitimate real life kids. I didn't realize it was the entire family doing that long running comedy show.
And then Ricky's kids became the Nelson twins, which were kind of a pop act, or I don't know what you'd call it, beer rock. I don't know what. They were like a rock and roll, long, straight blonde hair. And his daughter Tracy Nelson was an actress that I really liked. She was on a show. Oh, it's going to escape me, but it was kind of like a nun and a priest solving crimes in the 80s, like, 80s out, like a Magnum PI kind of
style. I don't know if it's the right one, but I've got one in my head. Yeah.
I'll Google it at some point here.
Corrections.
Yeah.
Corrections. Yeah.
I guess it's more of amendments at that point. Appendix. Like, hey,
yeah. Let's see it. Oh, and I believe she was in the League of Their Own, not the movie, but when they tried to do a show right after the movie. She
wasn't terrible. The show wasn't terrible, but it's not the movie.
I'm gonna find this here, but anyway, we are looking at Family Ties, Murphy Brown,
all of the 80s sitcoms.
Yeah, she was all over it. The Father Dowling Mysteries.
That's, I think, is what I was thinking.
Sister Stephanie and the Father Dowling.
Wait a minute.
I could picture the priest and the nun.
It wasn't Columbo?
No, although she probably did an episode because everybody did an episode of Columbo. But anyway, so they're kind of a multi-generational family. And Ricky Nelson visited the set, or at least the town where they were staying in Bend, because at the time he was dating Venetia Stevens.
Oh, the daughter.
Who plays Ernene. So there was, or Stevenson, Venetia Stevenson. So there was like teenage girls all over Bend, Oregon, clamoring to get into this hotel. And they thought, oh, this David Nelson's maybe as popular as Ricky Nelson, and maybe we hit box office gold here. And then they found out, no, they're here to see Ricky because he's here visiting his girlfriend.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think, David is actually pretty good in this. I like him. He plays a similar role that Ricky plays in Rio Bravo, but for the bad guys, and he's got a, he's the one with a little bit of a heart. And Voytek's right. Like the bad guys in this, Burl Ives, famous from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, is so intense and so cool. Like, Scott, what do you think? Have you had never seen this before?
I had not. That was a big one. I've mentioned it more than once. I don't know if it was recorded, but the Rio Bravo episode is famously, I think it's the lowest score I've given any of the movies, actually. Yep. So I was interested to see a movie done close to, and this happened just to be the same year, and to see if that was more of a trend of the time for these movies. And not true. This one I liked a lot more. Spoilers for probably where my review is going to go. But no, I found myself the Tall T is actually the one. And again, I mentioned before we started, that's what this reminds me of the most, where you have a villain, the leader of the villains, I guess, where you can kind of see where they're at. Like it makes sense to me, but when push comes to shove, no, they are a villain. They show there's a moment near the end of the film when they're charging through the snow. I don't know why I did that, but I did. More like horse, whatever. And you have the same, like, where at the end of the Tall T, where the villain turns around and goes, "No, you're not going to get me today." Like you can see the colonel, I think it was a major, them going, like, Blaise and him, Captain, that's it, connecting and really feeling like they can get through this. But when it all said and done, no, Captain is still out for himself and really doesn't care for this man. Like, in the same way, sees it more as a utility, like a tool, and than a person. And no, I enjoyed it. It was a tight 90 minutes, which I also enjoyed. I I don't think the last third holds up the first 2/3. That is when they go into the mountains. I found myself.
Yeah, because you kind of know what's going to happen. It's interesting to me. One thing that
sorry, when you mentioned the budget was running out, that's the first thing I thought. I was like, yeah, that last third is a little thin. So, but other than that, no, yeah, sorry.
What really struck me the first time I watched it, and the first time I watched it, literally, and this is going to sound silly, but I was working on a script, and I needed kind of examples of westerns where not a lot of guns are fired. And this came up on a list of like, oh, the main gunslinger in this doesn't shoot his gun. So it's a little akin to like the Gunfighter from 1950. So I was like, okay, I'm curious about this movie where the main gunslinger doesn't shoot his gun. And I watched it, and it starts out with such a familiar conflict of these, he rides into town. He's pissed that they're putting up barbed wire fences because he's got to get his cattle through this valley every year. And the more these homesteaders are popping up fences, the more impossible that becomes. And then there's this little twist that, oh, but he also has a thing for the guy's wife. They have a little history. There's a little love triangle. And that opening act is pretty tense. And when that bottle's rolling down the bar, and you think everything's going to kick off, and then suddenly Burl Ives walks in with his
jackals
gang.
and hyenas.
Yeah, and and he even runs down how vicious each one of them is, and they do kill someone immediately, which I'm kind of shocked that they don't just do what Captain Brune says, or like says they would do. Like I'm surprised they don't just kill all the men, molest all the women, drink all the liquor, and move on. But it's that twist, and this is the one twist that's not in the book, of the fatal wound. I thought that was a very clever thing to give Brune the fatal wound, and this idea that if he passes away, these men are going to go off because they'll have no one to control them. And the timing of it is odd because he does give a pretty good reason later for them to not get drunk when Robert Ryan comes in and says, yeah, it's storming here, but it's not storming in the valley. So that cavalry is coming. You better be prepared to go. And he's thinking, well, it's a good thing that they didn't get drunk because we wouldn't be able to ride out of here, kind of thing. So there is kind of a logic to them not getting drunk, the logic to not messing around with the women is, I think, just because they outnumber the women so much that they would tear each other apart fighting over them.
Could be morality as well. Maybe even though they are thieves, they're still a moral code.
Yeah, and as long as they maybe don't go after the women, maybe they are safe from attack. The townsfolk won't fight back.
Yeah, well, because it kind of gives us like, we're only like Reservoir Dogs. We're only here to get this done, and then we're gone. Like, and even like there's a lot of just like, especially once they find out that they can't just camp out. Like, this town is the end of the line unless you go through the you mentioned it's really early on when they see the barbed wire wagon, and his friend goes, "Are you worried about the wagon or the wife?" And like, so does everyone know this? like does everyone?
Dan does. Yeah, Dan knows all about it.
It's such like it, and he's not the only one. Like, everyone seems to know this, and especially because she's like, "I'll go talk to him," and the husband's like, "Oh, like I know why." Like,
it's
a
small town.
Yeah,
you were raised in a small town. You know the answer to this.
Yeah, no, and it's funny because like you get this like this element of like it is what it is. Like, she was married him not out of love, but for a reason. And I like that he brandishes the gun because I think he's trying to be like Blaise, the husband. And but she goes, he's not that at all. Like, he's a businessman. He's not a gunman like you are, right?
Even the shopkeeper says he carries that gun, but it's a bluff. Like if you fire on him, it's murder, essentially.
Yeah, I think he even says it's not even loaded. at one point. I think there's a reference to the fact that, he hasn't. He's never shot it. I think
never shot it. Yeah. What do you think, Voytek, about you were talking about the bad guys? What do you think about the level of tension in this movie? Like the music kind of comes and goes, but did you find it tense and kind of edge of the knife?
I did, yeah. I definitely, like when Brun introduces like Tex and Pace, and you just see them sort of cackling, like you're saying, Dave, like hyenas. Like I'm like, oh, I'm just a bunch of psychos here in this company, and you just see them just holding back their like aggression and energy, and so I definitely felt like afraid more than I usually do, because I haven't seen that level of villainy kind of sort of contained, and that Brun's just kind of holding them under his shoe. So absolutely, I just sort of felt that. And then when later in the film, when his men kind of express how they need some sort of outlet, they need to have a Saturday night dance with cookies. Just let's, you could definitely felt like just afraid of what's going to happen. I also found it funny that like they said, oh, all the women are in this bar, but then actually later on you see there's another woman who comes in to like bring coffee, and she's like not part of the dance, and I'm like, oh, they just don't care about her. But
should she be offended then? Like
maybe.
Perhaps. Yeah, they said there was 4 women in town, and there was actually 5, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I'd be offended. I really would be like, oh,
you just bring in the coffee.
Yeah, that's right.
And it really,
Cinderella.
If you do think of it in that same context of Rio Bravo, like Rio Bravo was so jaunty and upbeat, and even though there was a lot at stake, it's pretty laid back, and there's nothing laid back about this movie. And even that choice to shoot black and white to try to preserve that like cold, desolate, winter feeling, it really ratchets up the tension, I think.
The thing Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to mention, did you guys find it interesting that like both Rio Bravo and this movie share the same DOP, the same cinematographer? So that's an interesting contrast from the color and the high budget to this one. So
they didn't share the same editor, that's for sure.
Yeah, low budget and looks like $1 billion. I mean, it doesn't look like a Marvel movie, but it looks exactly how you want this movie to look, and every shot looks like it belongs in this movie.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's interesting. Rio Bravo keeps being brought up, not only by myself but everyone. Rio Bravo always felt the fuse was too long, the 1 week, and they're going to show up. And this one, you had the 2 fuses. You had the cavalry coming up and the fatal wound.
Mm-hmm.
Both felt more immediate, and so I always felt like, oh no, either one of these could catch up. Which one's going to catch up first?
Mm-hmm.
And B, both of them are just bloodbaths when they happen. Also, I like that they brought up the Mormon massacre. That's one of the reasons why it's been coming up more and more again. But I like that they went, no, the reason we're here is because this whole thing went down, but they don't say which, if they were part of it or and I like that ambiguity actually.
Yeah, I think Captain Brune says that he gave the command to fire.
Oh, okay, there we go. I missed that.
Yeah,
okay.
And I've worked on 2 movies that have covered the Mormon massacre: the September Dawn, which is not great, and then Under the Banner of Heaven. We did kind of a historical portion where we talked about that. It was also September 11th, and a big part of history that kind of got buried a little and then has come kind of to the surface after years of revising our own histories. But this movie too, I think, kind of was a off the radar thing for a long time, and I'm glad for places like Tubi and Plex and stuff where it's airing for free now, which is it's incredible. And it's nice that these movies are becoming available.
One of the nice things about this list from the Indiewire as well is, whether you agree with the order or not, it is shining light on these films.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hell, we're doing a podcast because of this. And so, I am seeing a lot of films I normally wouldn't because of this. And so, yeah, fantastic. Yeah, really good reason. Really like that these films are being, and I think there's this element, and I was one of them before we started, where old films, unless they're like the top of the cream of the crop, forgettable. There's so many of them, but I'm learning I was wrong. So yeah, there you go, Dave. I'm wrong.
Yep, it happens.
You can
There you
now
go.
admit about your Unforgiven review.
Yeah.
We've seen two westerns from 1959 already, and they're both great, right? We can all agree. Then I guess De Toth, a couple of reasons why they went over budget and stuff. They did run into some storms. Robert Ryan did get pneumonia at one point. De Toth had them outside a lot more than the original storyline. He took a lot of scenes and said, no, we can play this outside. I think maybe the fight scene where they beat up Robert Ryan's character was played outside instead of inside and stuff like that. And a lot of the crew was complaining about the cold. So De Toth shot one whole day with his shirt off. He just tore his shirt off and said, okay, let's do this. And they shot the whole day shirtless, which I'm willing to do no, I'm not, we're not doing that. But they say $400,000 budget. That's smaller than most of even the Bedekers of the late 50s. So
what would that be today? I'm gonna look it up.
I figured out that's about 4 to 6 million roughly. So kind of, ballpark of those of a small budget movie.
Yeah.
But I just want to point out a couple things. Alexander Courage was the composer for this. He did the music. He is the orchestrator on literally every one of your favorite movies. I will guarantee. Home Alone, Star Wars, Gremlins, Indiana Jones, Ben-Hur, Jurassic Park. Like he's one of the top orchestrators in
John Williams of orchestrating.
He really works with John Williams a lot, and he's the guy. So that's amazing. And then the other thing I thought of, Venetia Stevenson. I thought this was interesting. She also dated Elvis at one point, and Elvis was almost in Rio Bravo.
Yeah.
And she was called the most photogenic girl in the world by Photography magazine. She plays young Ernine, who is protecting her younger brother there. She was on the cover of the Ooh La La magazine in Back to the Future 2.
Oh, that makes more sense. I was like, where are we going with this? I could not predict the next word in that sentence ever.
I just love anytime something connects to Back to the Future. So to go from Day of the Outlaw to Back to the Future made me very, very happy. But yeah, I just think as far as the De Toth movies go and this idea of like Western noir, I really feel like this one gets that tone right, where it's not ever off tone. You know what I mean? Like it starts out with one conflict, moves to a whole new conflict, then the third conflict, which is, Blaise goes to Brune and says, I got bad news. You're dying, and you can either die here in the street and watch this town get torn apart by these guys, or we can get on our horses, set off on this trip through the mountains, which may or may not result in another place to go. And if we do that, you'll at least die with a little dignity, and we'll get these guys out of town. Do you think Brune was all bad guy? Or do you think him riding out of town was enough to say he had some redemption?
One of my favorite villains of all time is John Doe from Seven.
Right.
Because if you haven't seen the movie, there's a back and forth between him and the detectives. And when you listen to his reasoning behind why he did what he did, I can get it. I understand it. I would choose very different choices, but I get it. And so when you have a villain that isn't just villainous, here you go, got it. Vader. There's a Star Wars reference. Is
a drink for the
drink.
Although I did mention Star Wars already.
Yeah. Well, but like Vader, like is sympathetic even before we get the prequel stuff, and we find out he's a sympathetic character by the Return of the Jedi. I think Brune is the same way. I feel what he's seen through his time in the military has really taken a toll to the point where he's stealing the money, bringing who he needs to bring with him to get this done, and deserting, let's be honest, is a reasonable option. But when he's confronted with the idea of the people in theory that he's sent to protect, the townsfolk, or he enlisted to protect, when Blaise lays it out, like you just said, he sees reason in it. He goes, no, you're right. But in the end, we still have. But Shades of Grey is my favorite kind of villain, where you're like, yeah, no, you know what? I get how you get here, but again, I would make different choices.
He has a line. He says at West Point, he decided to be all soldier, which didn't leave a lot of space to be a human being. But I wonder, like, how do you suppose it went down? Like, for instance, if I remade this movie, which again, I'll put my phone number up at the end if anybody wants to call me to pay for me to remake this movie,
or for the shirtless photos.
That too. That's on OnlyFans. But if you guys,
only horses.
If I remade this movie, I think I would start with the cavalry heist. I think it'd be interesting to see these guys working as soldiers in the cavalry, and then kind of what their plan was to take the payroll and run, and maybe have a little bit of the pursuit, and then cut to the town and Blaise riding into the town. That's just my pitch.
Reservoir Dogs, where they would cut to it every once in a while.
Yeah,
this movie reminds me a lot of Reservoir Dogs, actually. That's the one in my head. Where you don't really see the heist, but you get parts of it when it matters for the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would
usually when Brune's telling stories, you could cut back to them.
Almost like a narrator over top of it, right?
And maybe if they had a proper budget, they could have done that.
Perhaps. I wonder. I'd love to find the screenplay and see if there was if it built it out anymore. I doubt it.
I did like that it, because it was so tight at 90 minutes. You didn't get a lot of those backgrounds from the bad guys, and you don't need them. Yes, that would be nice. It would be kind of cool to see, but you can tell because there's two of them that were military, but only Brune wears his uniform still. He's West Point. He came from a generation where military meant honor, and that comes through the whole time. You know, when he says we're not going to destroy this town, you sort of believe him because you can see he's still got those accoutrements of military time.
But he doesn't believe it. And you can see that when Blaise says, hey, we got to get out of here before they destroy this town. He won't destroy the town. I don't know if he's 100% on board with all his men doing it.
No, he's not. That's an interesting. How did this team get made? It would be could be a whole extra movie.
You know, I also wonder too if maybe the cavalry was doing things they didn't agree with, and maybe it went beyond what he signed up for, and they decided to break away from that anyway. Like, I wonder if there's even worse bad guy in some of the cavalry people.
Yeah.
Hard to say, because like the two of them, I in my Letterboxd review, I point out, I called them jackals and hyenas. His gang, because they are. They're these vicious, insanely, just insane people that just want to do bad. But then you've got Brune, and you've got David Nelson's character, whose name I just lost.
Yeah,
and they don't.
Gene, maybe.
Gene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and how he fell into that particular group is the one big
I wonder,
Mhm.
what if they were normal before this, and the massacre is what meant, and so Brune, because he said, "Hey, I'm gonna pull," I gave the order, feels indebted to these people in a weird way that I helped create these people.
Well, even the maybe even just being on the run and being away from women and being in the wilderness. I mean, you could go mad in the wilderness easily, especially when the weather's storming like that. I could easily see, you know, okay, now we're in a town and there's a chance to have liquor and there's a chance to have women. Why aren't we killing everybody and just doing this? But I love that scene when the two guys are outside and the guy tries to sneak a drink and he throws it and breaks it and he says, you know, have you ever seen anyone, or have you ever seen what Brune does to people that disobey? And he says, I've never seen anyone disobey him. It's like, well, I have, and you'll be glad I broke that bottle. Like that was enough of a reason for us to believe that they are going to obey Brune no matter what, I think.
Truly, yeah. And it's interesting as well how Blaise is impressed with Brune's leadership. He says, you know, something to the effect of like, I'm impressed that you can like control your men. And then Brune says, they need me. So something in their history with Brune and his men, maybe he showed some sort of fatherly or leadership where he was able to traverse the land with them, and they valued his wisdom. They valued how he was able to lead them, and so they trusted him. And maybe later on, when there is that moment actually where Blaise says to Brune, "Is like, I don't think you can control your men," and then yeah, he definitely demonstrates, and he tells Texter Pace to put down his gun. And so like that shows some sort of authority, and maybe his men have come to trust him, maybe through all their trials that they've been together.
Yeah, they've found that obeying him always leads to better results than disobeying him.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that Blaise kind of keys in on that bit of pride to say, well, I only tried to get the women out of here because I didn't think you could do this. And then Burl Ives almost doubles down of like, okay, well then I'll even keep tighter control on them until the dance scene. I think the dance scene is it's one of the more interesting scenes in the whole thing.
It breaks it up.
It breaks it up, and it really puts the you know, it really puts them into the tiger cage. You know, it really ratchets up, because up till then it's like keep the women at the store. The men are patrolling around to make sure nobody leaves. The one guy that tries to get away gets shot. When the women try to get away, they round him up and put him back. But I thought it was a really interesting idea and a really good idea to get them all together for that moment. And, you know, what's the harm of some cookies and some
dancing? And it really
so
showed
repetitive.
And it showed how again how much control Brune had, in that they're like, if it wasn't for him, this dance would be a lot more than a dance.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but they just danced,
and every once in a while they get a little more handsier, and you can see that.
Yeah, Brune shuts it down. He steps in there and takes over, and absolutely.
And it's nice how he does it too. It's like he's not coming down on the man. He's like, no, I would like a dance. And he sees it as a dissonance and moving on, because he knows the guy's not going to say no to him, right? So,
and he's got great little moves. He's a folk singer, you know.
You can see the difference. Everyone's like bouncing around, and he's actually like really just like
kind of wiggle. Yeah. I guess he both on this set and on the set of The Big Country, which he won an Oscar for, he entertained the cast and crew by playing between takes all the time. But I don't know if they were parody songs, but they were always kind of like dirty limerick songs. So he kind of has
once was a man from Nantucket.
Yeah, fun little kind of dirty folk music. I love when they take the little boy and Venetia chases him down and gives him that slap that does nothing. That's symbolic. She's smacking him and he's just kind of sitting there taking it, and then he's like, okay. Yeah, I love that scene. And I love, there's another line, I think it's at the dance, where they said, you know, I'm going to take Brune out and then we'll get our liquor. And the one guy says, a lot of dead men have tried. So it just those little, it doesn't take much from a writing standpoint. It doesn't take much to
that's
teach the audience what they're up against.
And this feels, again, I do feel especially the more we talk about it, Reservoir Dogs, where it's what is the current problem? And that will not matter in like 10 minutes when the next problem comes up. And that will not matter but it all matters together.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start with the barbed wire and and then we get into the wife and the husband, and then we get into the villains are in town, and then we get into and like it moves, and it's something. A lot of the older films, I find we keep talking about hinting at all these things and adding it or taking it out. Older films, I feel, show it all, and that's the pace and editing problem. Is a scene that could have been a one sentence throwaway line is a 5-minute scene, and you're like, this doesn't need to be in here. It's not really given as much as you'd want. Here, there's so much talked about and hinted through actions and words that feel more modern sensibility that I really like. I kudos. I haven't seen much film of this time, but comparing it to Rio Bravo, which showed everything. And if my tone on that doesn't give you an idea, but like we're the audience is smart enough to understand that, hey, through these, again, throwing the alcohol bottle down, be like, you don't want to cross this man. And because they keep talking about, I want to drink, I need a drink, I have to have a drink. And when that opportunity occurs, it's like, nope, do not cross this man.
Yeah.
It is not worth whatever you need or want. It says volumes. And I think in a lesser film, they would have just shown that.
I like the idea
coming out and taking the bottle and slamming it down and be like, what did I tell you? And
yeah. I like the idea too, that when you're faced with this situation where you're a captive of these bad guys, and we saw it in the Tall T as well, the strategy is to kind of turn them against each other.
Ingratiate and divide.
Yeah. And so he does it in the Tall T, Randolph Scott does, and Robert Ryan does it here, where once he gets them out into the mountains, the struggle then becomes just surviving. And they start picking each other off, and then they're doing the math that like, oh, we've got all this gold. Every time we kill somebody, that's less gold to split. And I think they've already, like, they know they have to keep Blaise alive to get them through the trail. And then they know that they'll kill him at the end. They're not concerned.
Well, and Blaise does too. There's no doubt.
And that's why Bruin asks him, why are you going? I know why I'm going. I know why we want them to go, but why are you going? And he kind of goes, I have my own reasons. And then I think that's when Bruin puts it together, like, oh, he's given up on this woman and there's nothing left for him.
It's funny because it's not like most films that would have made it like a weird struggle, but he's like, no, because she throws herself at him multiple times for mercy for the husband and for herself. And he goes, this isn't right. Like, based on your marriage, but also just the way it is. We have people who swore to follow the law going against it, and then marriage by law, he's really like, nope, this is sacred. This is something you've done. I know you and I wish this was different, but I'm honoring this.
And let's say he did say, okay, come with me. He still has to deal with the fact that this man has put up these barbed wire fences, and he can't, and his way of life is coming to an end.
Yeah.
So what's the point of pulling her out of a great situation into his way of life that's essentially over? Which is why I think the title Day of the Outlaw, it's not just the day the outlaws came to town, it's that day of that outlaw spirit is over.
You see that in Glenn, I think, because how he moves from one to the other, where he's throughout it, he's hesitant to begin with, but also he stranding them in the mountains and making them walk back was very much the last straw, right?
That was interesting that they said you can walk back, just follow the path. It's interesting that he made it back. Good for him.
Yeah.
And then once he was back, he was like, okay, he did have the heart of gold throughout the whole thing.
Well, and
it wasn't a huge turn to imagine that he's going to stay with Benicia and want to.
And Blaise knows this because he goes, because if he didn't want him to survive, he wouldn't have given him the keep your back to the wind, keep follow. Yeah, he goes, no, this guy is a good one. I would, if he makes it back, I'm okay with this. And you see that again at the end when he's like, hey, he showed up and he's like, look, I'll work for you. I'm more than happy to. And he goes, cool, that works for me.
I love the vet. I love the vet in this too. I love that they don't have a town doctor, but they have a vet, and there's that cute little baby cow in there, and he even says, like, if he was a cow or a horse, I'd know what to do. But he just felt so ill prepared for this surgery he had to do, and yeah, it's a really good twist.
And I'm wondering if it's because he understands the weight. If I kill this man, not only is he dead, can't control these guys, but I will be the reason.
Although the first one,
the bullet this time, it will be me.
I love when he says, "Do you want me to kill him?" Like he thinks, "Oh, maybe I can help by botching this thing, and I can kill him." And Blaise right away is like, "No!" Like the whole thing hinges on this guy staying alive, which is such a good tension point.
But it also says more about Blaise as well. He sees the larger, the machinations that are occurring, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Voytek, you mentioned the cinematographer. Was there any shots in this like that really stand out for you, like what that you really just loved?
Not really. I mean, I think for me, maybe just the close-ups on Robert Ryan. Like, I think he's such a magnetic performer, and I loved seeing them. But I feel like in my point of view, and I know we'll come to the reviews later, I think that the cinematography maybe was like the biggest drawback to the film, because I think if they had more of a budget, they would have been able to compose in a more just in a more classical way, and maybe like even when they have the scenes where they're going through the mountains and it's just really like screen direction going from left to right and then going through higher like snow banks and whatnot. I wanted to see more variety in the struggle that they were going through. So I feel like on a cinematography level, just in my opinion, there wasn't enough to differentiate it even from maybe television of today and back then. But I think for me, the strength of the film comes more across in the story, in what we see on screen and then what we suggest off screen. So it's less of a cinematography focused film in my opinion, but like in terms of just like the meat and potatoes close-ups, gorgeous.
It very well could be on TV, like on TV in the 50s. Like this plays very well on a 4:3 black and white screen. I think like it really, you're right. Like they never really get those vistas when they're making their way through the mountains. It's pretty tight. It's in the trees. It's in a few kind of carefully placed snowbanks. And then I believe that stuff at the night stuff where they're trying to light the fire and the one guy freezes to death overnight. I believe that's in a studio in Hollywood. Like it
feels like a studio.
Yeah, it feels like, and it feels like you would want to do that in the studio, because trying to shoot at night in the mountains in the 50s would not have been a fun experience.
Scott's random question for the people who worked on film. One of the things that stood out to me while they're going through the mountains is how much they whipped the horses. And so I'm curious, having worked on films like that, do you actually whip the horses, or is it more of a softer?
A little bit. I mean, the one thing that you won't see is that almost every shot they're going to swap the horse out. They usually have doubles and triples, especially if a stunt horse. We're not gonna work a horse harder than it wants to work, or than we want to work it. These horses are loved ones, they're babies, they're pets. They treat these horses so well in the film industry. But yeah, you might give him a little business to make him do that thing, but you get one, maybe two, maybe three takes. I doubt you even get a third take before they swap out for a fresh horse.
They show like one of the scenes where they're like really getting into here's me and the horses again. And they're getting through the snow, and I just see them Blaise just whip it. And I was like, oh, poor horse. like I'm cool if you all freeze to death. Leave the horses alone. Like,
even that shot that I used at the end of the little intro there, with the horse is deep in the snow. My wife at that point was like, "Oh no!" Like, she was so worried about the horse tromping through the snow. But that's maybe some of the best shots in this, from a cinematography standpoint. I do really love the shot where when the gentleman tries to escape back to the farm and they shoot him and he falls off and his foot gets hooked and he gets dragged for a bit. I think that's a great shot, and it's full sun, which, we know that being out sometimes full sun in the winter in the day can be the coldest moment of the day, regardless of how hot the sun is. There's no air when you're up that high in the mountains, and so that was probably a freezing moment, getting dragged through the snow. But it is a great shot, and you're right. And other than there's some interior stuff that's lit fine, but there's nothing that's really cinematic about the presentation of this film.
I think that works for it, though.
In many ways, you really feel trapped. You really feel like you're in the cage, you're trapped. And people have said about Rio Bravo is like you're there behind bars, but the whole situation is behind bars. And this one is kind of the same thing, or the Tall T as well. Kind of similar themes of like, you're a captive in this moment. And so if it was big and broad and these huge vista shots, it might not feel right. You might lose the tone.
And what I liked, the couple of vista shots they did have felt like a scar. You had this white snow and this really white sky and this row of trees that in black and white turn out black, just kind of tearing across the screen. And just added a little, it was just an interesting look compared to if this had been in color. That same shot would have been
Well, the town's a prison, even though it's an open air prison. You can go anywhere, but you can't go anywhere. Like,
and there's one way in, one way out. Like it's a cul-de-sac of the trail. You're not like, when they get there and they say we're on our way through town, they're like, there is no way through town this time of year. Like maybe in the summer you could keep going, but right now it's a turnaround, go back where you came from.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, there's a movie from the 90s with Lance Henriksen and Ray Liotta called No Escape, where he's a military guy, shoots his officer, and they just drop him on what would be Australia, really. And they're like, you can go anywhere you want, but you can't go anywhere. Like he just, like, it's an open air prison. Good for you. Our running man with the collars. We don't have fences, but you are stuck here. Like it's.
There's another one too called The Walking Hills, which is a pretty interesting premise. That these, I mean, without getting too much into it, they know that there's gold buried in the desert, but this small group of people that don't get along for any reason, whatever, end up out in the desert looking for this gold. But they know that they can't let anyone go back. No one can quit. No one can go home, because if they leave and they tell somebody that they're looking for this gold, you'll have 500,000 people out there looking for the gold. So they're kind of thrust. They're almost captives of each other, and they're thrust into this agreement that we're going to look for this gold, kind of thing. And that's in the intro. That's where some of those great windstorm shots come from, because they're out in just getting blasted with a storm. Should we move to our counts here?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing we do is our horses on film count. So this is a Voytek thought he had to count
19.
So he counted every horse. There's 19 horses.
I think you're the first to actually number it.
But it's a 4-level thing. No horses, some horses, lots of horses, or all the horses. Where does 19 fall for you there, Voytek? Is that?
I think some horses, some. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Dave?
I also gave it some horses. They're there. They're important, but they're functional.
Yeah.
As in Scott, easily influenced person. I was going to say something else, but now that I've seen what Dave and Voytek have said, it was always going to be some. There's not none.
Yeah,
it's more than that, but
it's definitely not no horses. But I did I was surprised when you said there was 19. That's more than I would have thought.
Well, because you get the two coming in, you have the ones they ride in on, then they ride out on, in theory, in the mountains. But the horse is playing somewhat of a key role in the last third of the film. It's some horses.
Absolutely, and they have mules that are packing, and they're dragging the gold, and definitely the first little bit of trouble they get into as they're trying to etch a trail through the mountains that's probably unetchable is the one guy's horse kicks it, and yeah, he has to take a shot at it. And it's funny because obviously they don't actually shoot the horse in movie production, but you can see how pissed off that horse is that the gun went off so close to its head. It like freaks out, and they quickly pan off of it. But yeah, that 19 horses is more than I would have thought, but I think some horses is pretty good. So then it's ratings. Next, ratings out of 5, and you can do half ratings. Let's start with Voytek on this one.
Yeah, for me, it's like a 3.5 out of 5. I think the movie has a really interesting theme that you touched on kind of in your introduction to the whole podcast, Cameron, with like the idea of like the frontier. And I love how like Blaise, he talks about how he's kind of like maybe even offended that the fences are going up and his sort of way of life is coming to an end. He thought that he could like work with the town and everything could be nice and friendly. But the thing is, in this frontier, you're going to eventually have civilization come up. You're eventually going to have the law come up, and you're going to have these systems of justice. And right now, they're on this like knife point of like, you could have random people come in and just cause chaos, like Brun's character and his men. Like, and so you have our protagonist. We have Blaise kind of questioning himself, being like, am I like an agent of chaos potentially? I was potentially an agent of chaos in this marriage of Crane and Helen, like, and I wanted Helen, like, I can't even live with myself. So this idea of the West and how like, or the frontier coming to an end, and him making his way and realizing maybe he's even an outlaw as himself, right? He was acting outside the realm of the law as a vigilante. It's really fascinating. So beautiful themes, great story. So the only drawback I would say for me is that is just like the visual language and maybe the production. I think it could have just been enhanced with some variety and us being plugged into the physical environment a little bit more, but solid 3.5 out of 5 for me.
That's great. Yeah. Dave, where do you fall?
I gave it 4.
Ooh.
I really did enjoy it. I would watch this again. I thought Burl Ives was wonderful.
Yeah.
It's as we're watching this, it's the holiday season. As this is airing, it's just after the holiday season, still winter. But it's
at least here. Yeah.
Here, yeah, exactly. But the joke every year when you get into the holiday season is let's thaw out Mariah Carey for her music. Well, that's also Burl Ives. Every year he hits the holiday charts every year with his stuff from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And honestly, not being a big giant film buff of this era, I remember Burl Ives as Sam the Snowman. I know in my head he's got an Oscar for A Big Country. He's got a giant career. But what he is most remembered for today is this one kid's special. And now
we
I'm
watch
seeing
every
him
year.
Winter Western.
Yeah.
It just kind of, it made me laugh so hard making that connection in my head.
I see it the same way as like Sir Alec Guinness being all like, I have done so much, but you know me for this one like throwaway thing, right?
Yeah,
Like
he's so accomplished.
Yeah.
Too accomplished to be in that production.
Yeah.
And then Star Wars becomes the biggest thing that's ever happened to anyone.
Yeah. It's funny that he's known for playing a snowman in a cartoon. Like for most, like 99% of people, right?
Yeah,
so like
absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting that like they purposely shot black and white, like you said, to avoid the looking like a holiday movie. Because if these guys are wearing red and the trees are green and you're out in the snow, it's going to look like a holiday movie. It's going to anesthetize this whole tension that we're trying to build. And so they shoot it black and white, and then Burl Ives a few years later becomes a holiday icon.
No, he was already this came. Rudolph came first.
Oh, Rudolph came first.
Rudolph
okay.
actually came first, but
Well,
I mean, it wouldn't have been as big as it is now because
sure,
that's just the time frame that it was.
Yeah. Oh,
it was
that's
only
so
a couple years before.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. How about you, Scott?
I would have echoed Dave's 4, but I'm not a fan of the last third. I've mentioned it a couple of times. I find the last third really lacking. It's not because of the being removed from the town, and I love the potential of going into the mountain, like everything about it there. But it feels, especially at the end when he wakes up, his friend's frozen, whatever, and I feel the first words that came to mind was Benny Hill when he's like going around. He's like, like
but his hands are frozen and he's trying to shoot that scene.
Well, it's not even just that, but Blaise being like, I'm going to get him. And it almost like for such a strong movie leading up to it, I really do feel it. And again, maybe budget, maybe moving to the studio, maybe whatever it is. I felt like we were just, for Lester, we're just killing off the people, letting however it be to get down to the inevitable point. I wasn't expecting him to survive. That was a nice twist. I wasn't and get him back and just kind of but so I'm going to give it a 3.5 in the end. I do feel at the end, and like many are great movies, the ending is a little lackluster. Doesn't mean it's not worth watching. I don't know if I'd watch it right away again, but I did enjoy pretty much everything up to when they go out into the mountains. And there's still stuff in that last bit to enjoy. I don't, but I feel what they built before is let down by that last little bit. So
there's a great moment in that stuff where they're going through the mountains where the Cheyenne character, I can't think of his name, asks him, what are you looking for? What are you looking at? As he's just looking out at the horizon. And he kind of has like 1,000-yard stare. I don't think he's really looking for anything.
It reminded me. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and he says, do you even know where you're taking us? And Robert Ryan turns and confidently says, yes. And it's true. He does know where he's taking them, to their graves.
Yeah.
And he knows that he's also going to his grave. And in a world where I could remake this movie, first of all, Brian Cox slips into that Burl Ives role. And I think that would be so amazing. I haven't cast the rest of it, but I love the idea of building out, like I said earlier, and maybe even you do see what the cavalry's facing coming to them. If you see a scene where the storm has cleared and the cavalry's loading up and starts heading, that could put a little bit of tension on the town scenes as well. But anyway, in that last act, I was kind of thinking about what is missing. You're right. There is something sort of like that scene with Cheyenne is my favorite part of that trek that they go through the mountains. But why is the rest of that trek not as good as that scene? And I think it is because Robert Ryan's character survives. And also that the gold kind of goes undiscovered, and it would be interesting if I don't know if you'd ever get to this, but maybe you kind of get the impression that Robert Ryan is prepared to die on that mountain when you leave the scene. And then you have, Gene's character coming back and them all kind of resigning to the fact that it's been too long. He's never coming back, or they made it through, or they all died up there. And then maybe in the spring they go up, or the summer they go up, or as it's melting, and they find the horses and they find the bodies, but Robert Ryan's body is not there and the gold is gone.
Well, never tell me the odds of that.
Yeah.
Everything you're saying, and I'm picturing Echo Base and like them being like, he's not going to survive out there. Like
3,720 to 1 are the odds. But
Cheyenne looking off, I wanted him to be like, there's something in the trees. And that's what it reminded me of. I was like, in the 80s.
The bumble's going to come up out of the. But you're right. Like as beautiful and as much as I love this movie, that last act, and maybe this is what the writer was talking about when he said they came back without a finished movie. I wonder if there was more to be done there, or if they would have benefited from leaning in a little bit to the desperate end of the worldness of it all. Because it would have fit more with the rest of it. The fact that he does come back and there's a little bit of a happy ending. He's sore. Like at the end, he's certainly not jovial when he gets back. And the kid says he wants to work for him, and he just takes his gun away and says, well, then you won't need this. Yeah. And makes me think that, okay, you can work for me, but I'm not going to be doing what I used to be doing. You know,
and they talk about how because there's no, Voytek, I was thinking while you were talking about, there's no law, there's no sheriff. There's no like when
that's also the vet.
Movies, sorry,
that's also the vet.
Yeah, but like,
and he'll cut your hair too. He'll cut your hair if you need.
There's no oh, the sheriff is like Gene Hackman in Unforgiven. Like there's no that character. I'm wondering if Blaise was filling that role, because he talked about it more than once. Like, hey, when people come, I'm the one that deals with it, right?
Yeah, he cleaned up that town to begin with. He says, I didn't do it alone, but me and Dan and the other, ranchers, we cleaned up this town once. We're not going to let it turn into just a regular town with crime and everything. Anyway, I haven't given my rating yet.
I was going to ask Cameron.
You would think that I say this is in my top 50. This is one of my favorite Westerns of all time. You would think, oh, Cam's a 5-star on it, but it's actually a 4.5. I'm at 4.5 because as much as I love it, and as much as it's very rewatchable, the performances are great. There's very few things that I would ever change about it. In fact, I don't want to remake it necessarily. And I really do think it can stand, and it belongs in the conversation of the top 100 Westerns of all time. Definitely. At 4.5 for sure. I still don't think it's a perfect movie. I don't think it's that 5-star movie. And we've had 5 stars on this before, and there's more movies out there that I think are 5-star Westerns / 5-star movies. And there's more 5-star performances. I think this is a 4.5. I think it's a 3.5-star movie, but it's a 4.5-star Western, because it does give you something that other Westerns really don't give you.
I can get behind that.
Yeah. And it says a lot, again, like I keep comparing it to modern filming, which is something that Rio Bravo felt like it was looking to the past. I actually think this movie and everything looks to the future of the technique and stuff, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, and all right, well, that's going to give us a pretty good rating that I think I'll be pretty happy with in the end. List worthy is the next thing. Do you guys think it's list worthy?
Yeah,
do you think it?
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's certainly not one we're rushing to replace.
No.
I'm looking at some other movies that kind of fit this feel. The Naked Spur is not a winter Western, but it's a very interesting, tense, and they're transporting a bounty. So there's a little bit of like a captivity feel to it. The Tall Men is a winter Western that I've never seen. I did watch some clips of it to put in the intro. So I'm curious to get into the Tall Men. Hateful Eight. What Voytek, have you seen Hateful Eight?
I have, yes, I have seen Hateful Eight. Yeah.
Do you like it? Is it high on your list?
It's not high on my list. No, it's one of my least favorite Tarantino movies. For me, it just really there's it just kind of drags for me, and there's not enough surprise in the story to keep me engaged. And the surprises that there are, I feel that they just feel so forced and convoluted. I think there could have been a different version of Hateful Eight, but yeah, it's not my favorite. That's for sure.
It's like a Deus Ex Machina in that one too. Like when they finally reveal what happens, you're like, how could I have guessed that? Like
yeah,
like Agatha Christie, but it was all supernatural, and you're like, well, that doesn't help.
I remember kind of enjoying it up until the reset and the twist, and then going, well, why was I watching the beginning if this is what's really going on? Like at some point, I think it talks down to the audience a little bit, and you could definitely see, I bet Day of the Outlaw influenced it in many ways. The idea of being shuttered in this end of the road winter setting. I feel like a little more Day of the Outlaw in the mix would have made Hateful Eight a better movie, perhaps.
And maybe a little more editing, because I keep talking about pacing. There's a modern movie with pacing problems.
Absolutely. It's not my favorite. And then one that I think, and we've mentioned it a few times, but The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. I think, if we're talking Westerns that kind of have this dark end of the era feel, which there are a few of them that have kind of graced the high end of this list, that's one that I'm surprised is just not in the conversation. I wonder if it just wasn't as accessible because it is so slow and pretty. If it's one that maybe could be revisited the way this has. Day of the Outlaw is more popular right now, I think, than it has been for decades. Perhaps The Assassination gets kind of a rejuvenation at some point where it's discovered. I know it's Brad Pitt's favorite movie that he's been in. Maybe as Brad Pitt ages, and people start looking back at his career, it'll move to the forefront a little bit.
I like it. One of the things I like about that movie, if we're gonna jump in for 2 seconds, I will do extend the podcast runtime. I always do. Is
already at we're at what you
my 17 minutes. I looked up. Is it's in the title, and so the whole movie is anticipating this one moment, and it does it really well. Like where the movie Zodiac, it feels laborious at times, and I've heard it excused as like, as he's getting frustrated, so are you with the film. I love Dave Fincher. I love Zodiac. I actually really do.
Zodiac. Yeah,
really good. But I feel like that's
Voytek that told me to watch Zodiac, and
oh really?
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's no, and but I feel like that's where the pacing and editing it gets an excuse. Compared where with Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Crawford, Robert Ford, sorry, that's part of it. We know it's like Titanic. We know the spoilers.
No spoilers.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for Titanic too, but it's just 2 hours of Leonardo DiCaprio, it's with that one. I feel like because you're waiting for that moment to come, it keeps, and then I guess spoilers. It comes out of nowhere. Like it really just happens. It's not celebrated. It just happens. And I really appreciated that in that film. And I think Day of the Outlaws, I think maybe that's where it falls a little short, is because we know, or we feel we know where this is going, and they kind of telegraph where it's going in a weird way when that last third shows up.
Just imagine if it had ended just a little darker, where it just cut back to the town, and the little boy asks, "Is he ever going to make it back?" And they just say, "We don't know." Or
the horse comes out down the mountain, but we don't see if it's being ridden.
Just that moment of like, or just he's up on the mountain and everyone's dead, and it just cuts away, and it's just
like the top at the end of Inception, where it's like you spin it and you don't see what happens, and you just
a little bit of dark ambiguity wouldn't have hurt this.
I think it's in the tone of the film too, though. So like,
it would be very fitting. Okay, I think we're kind of wrapped up on this episode. So I'll say next episode. I'm very interested about this one. This is the first one on the list that I've never seen before. We're only moving up one spot from 51 to number 50 on the list, which goes to show we're truly random here. But it's 2017's The Rider, directed by Chloe Zhao. It stars kind of actors Brady, Tim, and Lily Janro. I think it's how it's pronounced, Janro. 103 minutes. And Chloe Zhao is a great director, but I've never seen this particular movie, so I'm really excited. I'm excited to see a Western I've never seen.
Now you know how I feel every week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And have you seen that one, Voytek?
No, I haven't. No.
All right. Well, we're going to be treading some new territory here. Dave, where can we find you out in this world if we're searching the internet?
All over the YouTubes. You can find me on Sundays on Spill the Geek Tea at Spill the Geek T1. The first Thursday of every month, along with Scott and Cameron on Happiness Patrol, youtube.com/@Happiness Patrol Show. Most Tuesdays on The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. And in between all of that, you can find me on my own channel, youtube.com/The Rat Hole, DOTCA. That's therathole.ca, but YouTube does not like URLs in their URLs.
All right. And Scott, where are you in this world?
Pawn and Pixel should be doing what we do. This is a part. And it's funny that I could have just done that. But Breakfast Scotch National, where I try to digest the news. Actually, before I came and sat down with you guys, I was mentioned with my partner, I'm like, man, the news is moving too fast. As I write these things, the next day they're being contradicted. I'm just like, it's just, oh man, the news, it's exhausting. But I'm having fun though, so here we go. And hopefully soon, actually by this time, I'm hoping maybe what we got cooking might be out. First episode might be out by then. So
cool.
Yeah.
And Voytek, you're working away in film. Did you do any projects this year that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was working as a on-set props assistant for the latest season of Heartland, so that should be on television this fall. And then a film that I worked on last year, Die My Love, is now in theaters, so I was able to see it. So glad that it's had some success there. So yeah, those are the projects sort of lately that I've been involved in and are being shown.
That's great. I was really excited to hear about like Sissy Spacek's in that, and I didn't know Nick Nolte was in it. I actually turned that show down 3 times, and I'm pissed at myself for
right. Yeah,
time I love. But yeah, it's all over the internet. People are really excited about it, so that's a very cool project.
Yeah,
and Jennifer Lawrence is now talking about producing the Miss Piggy movie, so that's amazing. I'm excited about that. I wanted to mention in our intro there, that little chunk of story was written by former President Theodore Roosevelt, and it has words in it like he talks about an Aeolian harp, and I just kind of thought about, I can't imagine anyone in the current administrations in either Canada or the US like writing such a beautiful poem, and like an Aeolian harp is an instrument that it's a string instrument that literally uses the wind, and you put it out and the wind manipulates it and it creates all these eerie, amazing sounds, and just the fact that he wrote this beautiful story and was thinking about these unbelievably beautiful abstract things. What a world we live in now.
Yeah.
There's very few people writing, at least people in political spectrums that have that kind of touch of grace and art. And it just made me long for the days of yore to a certain extent.
Every once in a while, I quote someone. Obviously, the site's humorous, at least meant to be humorous, and I'm just like, how did this get said?
Yes.
How did the people we're supposed to look up to fall so far?
Well, this is why we can enjoy a little bit of escapism into the world of the Old West. And it's cold out there, so I'm just going to say good night, everyone. Stay warm. And
aren't you going to tell us where we can find us?
Oh, me?
Cameron.
You and Horses on Film.
Well, I guess. Okay, let's run through me quick. Okay, so I'm on Letterboxd. I'm Cameron Chapman. There's also a Letterboxd for this show. It's it's Horses on Film. That one we're making lists. We're putting up our reviews, and we're keeping stats. That's all. It's going to be, if you're following this show, that's the place to go to follow it. We have a Gmail account. If you want to email us, ask us any questions, tell us what your favorite Western is. It's horsesonfilm@gmail.com. We've actually received a few pretty nice comments and emails, and a lot of people following us on Letterboxd, and I just think it's great. I think maybe we're building a little community here that we can enjoy. I'm excited about that. And then, of course, Instagram. It's Horses on Film Podcast on Instagram. That's where I'll post the video version of these little intros. So if you're only listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, that's where you can find us. And if you're watching on YouTube, we're youtube.com/horsesonfilm. You're probably watching that here now. If you're just listening, it's fun to watch. If you're not watching, you're missing out on a lot of agree of nods, because there's, it's endless agree of nods in here until the end of time. Guys, this has been so great. I'm so glad I got to talk about one of my favorite Westerns of all time. I think the best thing now is just listen to our beautiful theme song by Brett Alec Bailey. We're 10% away through this adventure. Just 90% left to go. And if I remember in school, 10% is not a bad grade, so we're good.
Canadian education system right there.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Stay warm out there. And we'll see you next week, in 2 weeks, for Chloe Zhao's The Rider.